This was me 10 years ago. I was bigger than I'd ever been, unhealthy and miserable. I want to be clear, this isn't about looks or ego. I don't care about any of that stuff. The problem was I had become incredibly out of shape. Mentally, I was at my lowest point too. All of these changes I could trace directly back to my business. And there was another serious complication that I had to deal with. You see, when I started my business, I was in my 40s. I couldn't go marching into my 50s in my newly acquired condition. That would mean my second act would be defined almost entirely by serious health problems. So that poured more anxiety onto my already raging anxiety fire. And there it is. It's actually kind of hard to avoid. Within a year and a half of becoming an entrepreneur, I was in the worst shape of my life, fat and perpetually sick, in ways I just wasn't used to. Yeah, I was in denial for a while. That pair of pants that used to fit me so well, suddenly it just wouldn't meet in the middle. That pair of jeans, maybe it shrunk in the wash. Yeah, the jeans that I bought 5 years ago. Oh, maybe it was water weight. Oh, no, it was weight. But how? Where? When? How?
Jumping jacks. Stay on your toes. Keep your knees.
When I look back on what I became, I can't believe it. But how could entrepreneurship make me this way? This has to be a cop-out, right? Well, not exactly. I knew that what was happening to me was mostly my fault. But entrepreneurship created a perfect storm that I sailed right into. I tried to normalize what was happening to me by telling myself, this is just part of getting older. I don't have the stamina, the energy, but I was avoiding some obvious answers. Something in the choices I was making brought me to that point. I wasn't getting any sleep, I was stressed out all the time, and I was carrying all of that extra weight. All of these factors came together when I decided to start out on my own to create a business. Someone brought me a picture of my future self before I started that business. I wouldn't believe it. And you know, the amazing thing is that I walked right into a trap. But it was one that I created, and it can happen to anyone. Here's the story of how entrepreneurship made me fat, sick, and miserable. Anyone who tells you being an entrepreneur will give you more control of your time is full of shit. That's the dream, right? Start your own business so you have more time for the stuff you want to do. Traveling, family time, writing that book that's been clawing at the inside of your skull to get out. What the Instagram rent-a-jet entrepreneurs don't tell you is that in the beginning, you will probably end up working 3 times longer than you ever did working for someone else. Weekends will bleed into the week. You'll forget what month it is. Holidays will pass you by unnoticed. That's just what it takes to build a business. It won't always be like that. Eventually things will even out. You'll hit your stride. That's what happened with me. But in the beginning, entrepreneurship will own you. Working those long hours, giving up all that time, has serious blowback. Because I was working 12 to 14-hour days, 7 days a week, I gained a ton of weight and I discovered a whole new level of unhappiness. Lots of entrepreneurs underestimate the kind of time this thing sucks up, the sacrifices you have to make. And because of that, your mental and physical health go down the tubes. It's not long before the work, the business, starts to suffer too. When I became an entrepreneur, I didn't factor in the ridiculously long hours. I didn't have time to eat properly, to cook for myself. I had to eat what was fast, and I was doing that every day. I thought I was saving time by buying takeout, but the trade-off was that I was eating so much garbage, so much delicious garbage, it started to show. What's worse is because I was working such long hours, I was catching up on my meals late at night, and that is a recipe for disaster. Before I could blink, I had put on a ton of weight, I couldn't fit into my clothes, I was huffing and puffing just to climb up a flight of stairs, and I felt twice my age. I was using fast food and eating out in general as a shortcut to claw back time. Because I was juggling a million things in my business, I relied heavily on takeout food. In the early days of my business, money was tight, so I was eating mainly cheaper fast food. Where I thought I was saving on food, I was paying with my health. And there were other factors that made it worse. I came from a high-pressure environment. I worked in television journalism for more than 20 years. I thought there was no stress like trying to meet television deadlines. I was wrong. Entrepreneurship was way worse. When I started my own business, I discovered that running this thing on my own was a whole new level of stress. Deadlines in my new business felt like doomsday countdowns. The work felt like it would never end. As soon as I finished one thing, I'd barely be able to catch my breath before I'd have to start on something else. I never told anyone this story, but I remember sitting in front of my computer at 3 o'clock in the morning and just bursting into tears, crying like a new baby. I just crumbled under the weight of everything. Juggling the finances, chasing after clients, keeping up with all the work, all the problems that would crop up in this business. It created a nuclear reactor of stress, unlike anything I'd ever experienced in my life.
You're probably wondering, why is a big man like...
3 years after starting my business, I had a wake-up call. I wasn't sure what entrepreneurship was supposed to look like, but it sure as hell wasn't this. If I wanted to be fat, sick and stressed out 24/7, I could have done that in my old job and gotten a regular salary for my trouble. Starting a business to have the opposite effect of what I wanted was just nuts. I learned the hard way that I had to get better at managing my time. I had to create systems that would allow me to complete my work more efficiently. But I also had to create non-negotiable times to prepare as many of my meals in advance as I could. I chose one day out of the week, it's usually Sunday, that I would make all of my meals, or as many as I could. That way I wouldn't waste precious brain power trying to figure out, well, what am I going to eat today and where am I going to go to get it? I forced balance into being. The work is important, but I can't get any work done if I'm sick and miserable. It's impossible to eliminate the causes of stress, but I work harder to manage my response to those causes. But I also had to do something really hardcore to actually turn things around. I created a series for YouTube called Battle of the Belly. The idea was to record my mission of getting healthier and changing my diet and lifestyle. I figured I don't want to start the series and then come out at the other end of it looking the same way. That would be humiliating. So in a way, I had to succeed or I'd look like a massive fraud in front of everyone. So as far as motivation goes, well, it worked. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said the idea of entrepreneurship giving you more time is a lie. And I meant that, but that's only part of the story. For me, eventually the dust settled. My business found its footing. Income was more sustainable. I got better at completing my tasks more efficiently, and there was more time to do the things that mattered to me. Now, if I had to do everything over again, I would do it all completely differently, but I would still do it. Everyone's entrepreneurship journey is different, but I'd be willing to bet all involve some measure of sacrifice. Let me know in the comments below if my experience sounds familiar to you. Maybe my experience echoes yours. Let's talk about it in the comments.